of overselling flights and holidays. But the travel industry says the government could have done more to help after COVID. Julia Lo Bue-Said is based in Hertfordshire and is Chief Executive at Advantage Travel Partnership. Good morning to you, Julia.
Good morning, Andrew.
Thank you very much for joining us on the show this morning. You lead a network of travel agents. Are they getting a lot of calls about these problems?
They are indeed. I mean, their job really is there to help the consumer, to make sure their customers know exactly what's happened to any travel disruptions, and to also ensure that in the event of anything going wrong, they can look to find an alternative flight to get them back home. I mean, it is worth saying, no consolation for anybody that's found themselves in a really hideous situation. The vast majority of flights are taken off and arriving back, and they haven't been cancelled. Unfortunately, a number of airlines have cancelled quite last minute, and that's putting a real strain on the whole system.
But we're hearing about not only, and we've been covering it on the show, not only flights leaving the UK, but now flights coming back into the UK are getting cancelled as well.
Yeah, it's exactly the same reasons and a complete knock-on impact to the whole ecosystem. And in fact, it's not actually just UK. It's affecting, the US have got the same problems, but also across Europe, we're seeing bottlenecks across Europe as well.
So what can be done if you're say you're in France or Spain or whatever, and you can't get back because your flight has been cancelled? You've either received a text or you get there at the airport and they say, "I'm sorry, your flight's cancelled." What's the protocol? What happens then? Because you may have checked out of your hotel. You may have nowhere to go. What happens?
Yeah, so anyone that's had a last-minute cancellation, and where, Andy, it becomes very, very complicated to explain it in a very short conversation, is it all really depends how you've booked and where you've booked your flight or your holiday. If you've booked a flight only, if you've booked a package. If you book through a local travel agent, for example, you will get through to them. They will be on the phone and they will be sorting out alternative arrangements. They will also ensure that you have access once you return to any compensation that you're entitled to, because you are. The real bottlenecks and the problems occur is when you just cannot get through to your airline or your package tour operator if you book direct. And obviously they're struggling with the same issues as everybody in terms of staffing. So if you cannot get through to who you've booked with, you are entitled to compensation. If it is a last-minute cancellation, you're also entitled to reasonable expenses for overnight stay and getting you to and from the airport, and an alternative flight. And it doesn't need to be with the same carrier you were about to fly out with. Unfortunately, you will need to pay for those. If you can't get through to anybody, keep all your receipts, because you will be able to claim that back on your return.
Are you worried that with all this half-term chaos and with the bad publicity this is all kicking off, is this going to put people off booking foreign holidays this summer, Julia?
I think the problem we've got, it's devastating, because the travel industry wants nothing more after being shut down for 2 years to make sure everybody can get to where they want to be at the right time in the right place. And this is the last thing anybody wants. And clearly behind the scenes, everyone's working exceptionally hard and constructively with government, to be fair, on what needs to happen now to ensure it can build resilience and scale up for the summer. But of course, headlines, don't help confidence. And what we have to do is ensure over the next 4 to 5 weeks that customers know, when they're interested in booking, who they should be booking with, how they can make sure that they, there is a situation where they're not going to find themselves in a difficult situation, but they know that if something does go wrong, they know who to speak to. But it is a worry. I'm confident that what I've seen, again, industry working really hard to make sure we're putting everything in place. And in the next 4 to 5 weeks, as we build up for the summer, there'll be more staff in the system and more resilience built as well. So
the Transport Secretary, was he right to say that airlines should have been better prepared? And why weren't they better prepared? Because at the end of the day, half term is half term. It's always around about the same dates. They knew it was coming. It wasn't like it was a surprise.
No one likes to criticise the government, clearly, when you're engaging with them. And I think it's very unfair for our Transport Secretary and my local MP to be saying that, to be fair, because you really cannot shut down what is a global system and look to scale back, to build back in a really short period of time. And it's worth remembering only 11 weeks ago, the UK still had restrictions in place for returning into the UK. So it takes it's a global infrastructure, lots and lots of moving parts. You cannot build back overnight. And the surge in demand has been extraordinary, which really shows you that the significant importance of the outbound sector to not only to the economy, but socially, how important it is.
But Julia, that rather than the airlines, make a few quid, rather than putting people on furlough and just have them ticking over, they laid people off. They went, do you know what? We're not going to pay you the furlough because we don't want to pay that much money, so we're just going to let you go. Surely they should have put them on furlough and had them ticking over. So when it all did come good and we were starting to get back to normal, they were there. They were ready to come back into the jobs. Instead, they've had to go right back to the very begining and start again, and that's why they've been caught out. So it's greed, isn't it?
I'm not sure it's greed. I don't work for an airline or can't speak on their behalf. What I see from where my members are is actually, the whole sector hadn't, when you're losing millions, if not billions of pounds a day, in some cases, actually, how do you make sure you can keep the operation operating, build it back quickly, make sure you build enough scale in the system so that you can meet demand when that comes through. And a lot of businesses are, rely on the airlines, haven't got the capabilities of keeping staff on, unfortunately. And let's not forget, furlough ended in September. Restrictions didn't ease until end of March. So it's quite a significant period of time to expect every employer to be able to keep a heavy cost base without looking at how they can ensure the operation can make its way through the pandemic.
Julia, I really appreciate your time. Thank you very much for joining us on the show this morning.